we can't hide from the Lord.
Mm.
And, I think there's also scriptures that talk about how we should be careful to not rejoice in evil or not fall into sin ourselves because we want justice,
Mm.
that thing inside of us that just wants justice, so much so that we will put ourselves on the throne. And, before you know it, we're falling into sin ourselves. Welcome to What to Say and How to Say It. We are continuing on our love series. And this week we are discussing love does not rejoice in evil, but rejoices in truth. And when I think about that verse, what comes to mind is how, I don't know if this happens to you, Nina, but sometimes whenever there is um, someone that, does something that I would say is evil or that I would feel wronged about or offended about, and then something happens to that person, and that feeling that you get, that tiny bit of satisfaction that
Oh.
happens. um, yeah, I think about that verse. I think is what applies in those situations. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, sis, man, I can level that up to even, ha, you deserved it. You know, and then let's throw in oh yeah, you can do that now, but just you wait. God will smite you. It's just, oh man, I wish that wasn't in me. But occasionally, yeah, that's a thing. And I hate that. And this is one of those things that we have to move past relationally, because if we are rejoicing in evil instead of rejoicing in truth, what happens is within us, our pride gets moving, and then we're completely off target. Like if God's going over here with connection in the relationship and let's heal this thing and blah, 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 like we're turning from that over into I'm so right and awesome and you're so wrong. And then we're against each other versus being together. It's that disunity, where God wants unity and the devil likes to separate. So if we don't get this piece right, boy, howdy, is it a hot mess for our relationships.
Yeah. What's so hard about this also is that we can be silent about it.
Oh,
You know, we don't even have to
yeah.
be verbal. Like no one can know that we're
Right.
rejoicing in this evil. We can just,
Yeah. Nobody's
you
going to
know.
know. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know. Like I can think this thing and nobody's going to know.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's unfortunately really true. Really true.
Yeah, I think about sometimes when I'm in traffic and there's like this person that just kind of runs you off the road, and then they end up having to slam on their brakes
Mm-hmm.
because there's a red light. And
Mm-hmm.
that feeling, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's what you got.
Mm-hmm.
You thought you were going to get somewhere, but here you are having to slow down just like the rest of us.
Yep, yep, yep. Oh man, that happened to me when I was coming back from Chicago this weekend. I was driving my daughter back from college, and it's like midnight, right? And say I'm in the wrong lane and I'm a little distracted trying to, scroll through a thing to get a video. Don't tell anybody. I just did, right? I ran myself out. But I didn't know there was a car behind me, and I wasn't doing it very long, but I was just trying to scroll up to the next thing and hit it. I'm one of these weird people that listens to videos. Anyway, so and his horn, he goes around me and I'm like, yeah, I was wrong. But he was so annoyed and for a long time, right? And then he got up behind this truck that was in front of us and had to slam on his brakes. And I'm like, yep, good for you. See what you get when you're unkind. And then it's like the Lord was like, hey, Nina, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it's different if I don't say it aloud. And the Lord's like, yeah, no, it's just not. It's just not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, we can't hide from the Lord.
Mm.
And, I think there's also scriptures that talk about how we should be careful to not rejoice in evil or not fall into sin ourselves because we want justice,
Mm.
that thing inside of us that just wants justice, so much so that we will put ourselves on the throne. And before you know it, we're falling into sin ourselves. So it's there for a reason, I think. um so
Yeah. Yeah. And I keep thinking of situations that happen with relationships,
mm,
that we're maybe not so much rejoicing in evil, but we're pleased when the other person learns a lesson. But underneath that is this told you so, you know,
oh yeah.
ouch, that phrase should, if we ever think it or say it, or,
Yeah.
and then the modern day version of that, I think, which is the one that I'm guilty of, is, yep, saw that coming, which is basically translation to, I was right, you didn't listen, eat what you have been sowing, you made your bed, lay in it, and it's sarcastic. And yeah, wow, there's a lot of ugly in me. I didn't know this was all there today. I'm disgusted. I need a shower. This is terrible. Like, wow, Nina, you dig into this stuff and yeah, that's who we are sometimes inside. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of pride we carry. And we talked about pride a couple weeks ago, and this all ties in, that whole I told you so, and there's a train wreck coming. That's all just pride seeping out of us. And sometimes we don't notice it until we verbalize it, and it happened to me too. Like this situation with one of my kids, and it's the whole stop running lecture that we give as moms. It's, you tell them 5 times, and then the sixth time is when they finally realize, which is the time whenever somebody gets hurt. And so, it was that whole, I told you 5 times before and you didn't listen, and now look. And then, immediately after, I just wanted to pick them up and just hold them, and so it's like this whole dichotomy, that's happening inside of me. It's like, just listen to me, but okay, come here. Let me love on you. So it's tough.
Yeah, it is. And you look at the other side of this, the rejoice in truth thing.
Mm,
Um, oh man, one of the problems with being somebody that's okay with speaking to groups of people
mm,
is that the downside of that is that you like speaking to groups of people, which can then mean that you actually think that you're the one that has to say a lot, or that you have the answers to things, so shutting up can be challenging. I laughing because this is the thing, you're smiling at me because you know me too well. So I have been working on this, and I think I'm actually fairly decent at it, but there are times when I love Simon Sinek. He's a
mm,
leadership coach, right?
yeah.
Brilliant dude. Leaders eat last. And he's really, and he's leaders speak last. Like, I heard a video that he had about that, a teaching he did on it, and it makes perfect sense. And you have to speak last with your nonverbals also. So you don't want to, oh yeah, that's the idea I like, and even before that, it's, am I throwing the idea out, or the question out there, and then letting everybody say what they want to say. And so, and as I lead greater impact, and I tried to do this with my parenting with my kids, because it made so much sense there to ask them because my job was to teach them how to think, engage as many common sense brain cells as possible, instead of just telling them what to do so they were little robots. I didn't want that. I want them to go out in the world and succeed. But the only way they do that is by failing. So, you have to ask the question, well, what could happen if you do that? Well, yeah, well, what could go wrong with that? But the whole rejoice in truth thing, sometimes people come up with really great ideas that are like nothing you've ever thought of, and you miss so many opportunities to have truth, have something beautiful to rejoice in, if you're the one that is needing to do all the talking or be right or the center of attention or whatever. And so, I don't know that specifically connects to the rejoicing in evil, although if you're a prideful leader, whether that's as a mom, as a business person, a ministry leader, spouse, doesn't matter. If you're prideful in that space, that can be evil. And it comes out that way. So you're missing God's truth, God's best from the mindset that you have as a leader, and whether or not you need to be saying and doing and being all the things to everybody instead of helping other people shine in their gifting, which is what I really want to be about. So, yeah.
Yeah, it can be subtle like that. And what that makes me think about is how sometimes we can make good evil and evil good, just subtly, and how we justify, like kind of like what you're saying, well, I'm the leader, and what I say matters, versus, well, actually giving other people the stage and the floor is a better way of showing love. Often I justify small things that can seem very innocent, whether it's like, oh, I'm just gonna sleep an extra 10 minutes when I know, it'll make me 10 minutes late. But in my mind, I'll justify, because I had a hard day or I did all these things, I deserve that extra 10 minutes. And it's like, well, or that extra, piece of cake, that's so good because I ran, 10 miles, last week. And it's like, well, I don't know if, if that's really good or evil here,
Yeah.
It can come in small and subtle ways. I don't know. Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah, I'm sitting here with, I know there's cake on top of my refrigerator right now in a box. Just had a birthday and Mother's Day and all that. So we have cake. And I got to tell you, I did move it finally from the counter to the top of the refrigerator, because this is why I don't use file folders. And I, it's just, if I can see it, it's real. If I can't see it, it doesn't exist. And I'm not as tall as my refrigerator. So my husband will bring home stuff from work that's, donuts or muffins or, it's just awful, torturous stuff. And it'll sit on the counter and I'm like, and I will literally say, this is not real. And I'll stick it on top of the refrigerator. And that's probably not rejoicing in truth, but it's not rejoicing in evil, because for me, I don't have a lot of self-control in that space. I'm also hypoglycemic. So I'm recovering like right now. It's so funny you're talking about cake, because right now I'm recovering from too much sugar, over too many days, and actually had to leave someplace with a friend last night because I got such a bad headache from yesterday. I didn't have any sugar. So I was crashing, right? Well, the point is that when we're in situations, we need to recognize, what's good, what's not, and then move forward in the what's good space. To your point, you got me a little sidetracked with this whole cake thing. And obviously my brain is still being affected by the sugar. It is not working as well as it was last week. I will say that. That's absolutely true, for sure. Oh man. Now what? I think I've derailed us completely.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, how does this apply in the what to say? When we're in a situation where, we are in communication, whether it's like you said, saying that I told you so, for instance, what would be a way of, instead of rejoicing or delighting in evil, and rejoicing in truth instead? Sometimes the Holy Spirit will just tell me, be quiet, because all I can think of is to say, I told you so. And so I'm sure there's other things I could say.
Oh, well, yeah. Like, so we're the worst person we have to lead. So I have to tell myself in the what to say department, I have to say to myself, Nina, bless that person. And then my second sentence is, Lord, help me, Lord, will you, and I'll pray for that person, or I'll pray. He's so good. And gentle. He'll point it out. He'd be like, hey, really? Is that how you really feel about that person? You want to feel like that? He'll ask me a question around that and I'll be like, oh no. So help me be you in this space. Will you bless them? Will you? And then I'll think of reasons I'm grateful for them. And then, I run with a crowd of people that are they have way more money than I do, and they're all into horses, right? And so, like a horse vet bill is $180 in the half an hour of the time, and they get a mani pedi every 6 weeks, and it's $200, and they
Wow.
have to have these. Yeah, so I've got friends with multiple horses, and they have, and I will tell you it. I get envious of that sometimes because I wish that was my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe someday move in that direction, but I'll be, I mean, I'm wearing borrowed jeans, man, or well, Goodwill style jeans. I'm not wearing the high end equipment or any of that kind of stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I look at that and I'm like, Lord, I love these people, they're incredible, will you bless them? And I fight against those, I take them captive, those thoughts of jealousy, because yeah, I want what they have, but I don't want it in an icky, evil way. I want to celebrate with them. And that's the neat thing too, is that the group that I have of friends in this area and in ministry, we're all so for each other. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. Nobody takes anything personally. I had a client that was in a class with one of our other coaches say to me, hey, I feel kind of bad that I was in her class and, I wanted to do private coaching with you. How do you think, should I tell her anything about that? And I'm like, you can talk about it. I can't talk about it because I'm your coach, but and I'm not going to talk about my clients and who they are even with our other staff people. I said, but she's not going to care because she loves you. And I'm 100% sure that that is true. Whether or not she has any internal anything, I would never know about it because that's the kind of caliber person that she is. And I think that's what we want to represent also, is we want to fight those little battles with jealousy and envy, and never go down the path of, ha, saw that, good for you, you deserve that, no, no, no. Let's have empathy there, and Lord, will you help them learn, and will you bless them, and that kind of thing, versus um, feeling any kind of good. Oh, and this, from a relationship standpoint, from a what to say, and how to say it standpoint too, that so many times people that I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings with this, but you got to know that you just have to hear this. If you're on the low end of the totem pole in social skills development stuff, you're gonna feel great when somebody gets hurt. You're going to feel great about that. And then on top of that, you might even say something like, well, I did it to you because you do it to me all the time. And I wanted you to see how that felt. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
ow, ooh, ow. That's like a character alert moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's rejoicing in evil. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 12, I did that, right? But as we grow and mature and as humans, and then hopefully in Christ, I mean, that would be the motivation. That's the Holy Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. We would not have that kind of spirit towards anybody. Yeah.
Right.
Show him how see if he likes it. No, no, you don't behave badly to hurt somebody on purpose. You don't say the things. Well, you do it to me. No,
Yeah.
never, never a thing that you do. Anyway, now I feel guilty for
Yeah.
harming folks. I hope I was not too harsh with that. Actually, not guilt. It's just kind of, ooh, that could be bad for some.
Yeah, well, I think that's easy to do, especially in conflict. I think that kind of thing happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm.
We feel hurt, so we naturally, that flesh just rises up and wants that other person to hurt just as much, right? When that's the opposite of what God is telling us to do. He tells us to rejoice in what is true. And so I think it takes incredible awareness, incredible discipline, bringing that flesh
Mm-hmm.
under subjection to then choose in that moment to have empathy, like you
Mm-hmm.
said. So I just imagine when that dagger, happens or comes my way, and my desire is to use the dagger in return is, put it down
Mm-hmm.
and instead sit with that person, or empathize, see that person, and try to at least meet them where they are, because there's something inside of them that is causing that
Yeah.
evil, and you just there's no way to conquer evil with evil,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. Well, and we see that too. We've got this booklet on our website. It's a little ebook. It's free. It's called "Stop Walking on Eggshells," and you can get that at greaterimpact.org. And it's really helpful because it addresses some of these things. But to your point about what's within us in that space, we want to make sure that we're dying to self and we're loving the other person. When someone succeeds, are we celebrating that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are we celebrating it, or are we feeling like, oh, I wish that would have been me, or they always win, or what, that's evil. That's focusing on, yeah. And then when something bad happens to somebody, is there that green monster in there that's like, yeah, well, things always go her way. So it's finally, something real happens to her or whatever, or him or whatever, none of that is holy. None of it.
Yeah, it brought me back to my high school days and how, the one that is most popular and gets all the attention and all
Mm-hmm.
the awards and all that, how so easily you fall into that mindset. And yeah, yeah.
Well, and it's not just high school. I mean, I had somebody in ministry, gosh, this probably been 5 to 10 years ago, but something great happened. And I was like, oh my word, I can't believe this happened. And they were standing around with some other people that were congratulating me about something. I don't remember what it was, but I remember this. And they said, just everything good always happens to you. I don't even know what it is about you. And I was just kind of like, well, alrighty then. Thanks for the feedback. And I thought, wow, how is it this cool thing that I didn't even feel responsible for? I remember that. It upset somebody that they would say that, and that whole thing, and you just kind of go, huh, what is it? That jealousy, I mean, you see it in churches, you see it in companies. Well, how come they got the promotion? Well, how come they got asked to teach Bible study? Oh, please stop. Just stop. There's a time and a season. And if you're not asked to do a thing, there's a great reason for that. Right. And oftentimes there's some humbling involved in that. Because leaders that are great leaders, they work on being humble. And God really helps them out with that often. They either, I know, right? Yeah. But if you're going to be good at it, you got to be humble, because pride ruins everything.
That's right. That's right. And if you're a good leader, which you are, and I've had both. I've both happen to me where people have said you're not ready, or this isn't the area for you. And then there have been times where I've been pushed into things that I didn't think I was ready for. But both of those situations, I feel like, are the truth. And, the more mature we are, the more we can rejoice in that truth and receive that truth. And in turn, rejoice with others whenever they win and whenever they're chosen. It's maturity. It's knowing ultimately it's really about God and not about us.
Yep. Yep. You're absolutely true and spot on right with that. The neat thing I think about all of this is this prideful. All of our people at Greater Impact, I think, are great leaders. Like, we have a bunch of type A driven, strong personalities. And we all have these incredible interactions where there's a lot of humble hearts, and even dialogue where there's disagreement. It's respectful and open. And I love that. But if you can't apologize, if you can't own making a mistake, you shouldn't be in leadership. Right. And if you want to see where you're at on that spectrum, that's like the ultimate thing. Can you own your mistakes? Can you apologize? Can you celebrate when people do well? Can you rejoice in the truth, no matter who's brought up the idea, who's creating this and responsible for it, whatever? Or are you down on the other end of the spectrum where you're like happy when somebody gets a knife stuck in them, and secretly, yeah, saw that coming and they deserve that, we don't want to be that. That's evil. We don't want that. And we will not be good leaders if we don't move towards that other space of humble, servant-hearted leadership. So I'm just thankful that literally everybody on our team is like that, you included. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Praise God. There's growth that's happening.
Yeah, I know, right? And his spirit within us, showing up, because I don't take credit for anything good that comes out of me. I think that's all him, because I know the mess that I am inside, right?
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So any good from him. Yeah.
So this has been a lovely conversation. I hope our listeners got something out of today and have learned a little bit more about what it means to not delight in evil, but instead rejoice in truth. So yeah, we've got a lot of videos on conflict and where we talk about this kind of thing. So if you're interested, please check us out. We've got tons of info available. So check out our next episode on what to say and how to say it.